So you want to know about Defender roles and categories in Rainbow Six Siege. Don't worry, you came to the right place. Many of you may not know this, but I'm actually on my college's esports team, and we have a lot of high diamond and champion level players who pass a lot of this high level information down to me, and that's what I'm going to give to you guys today. The first thing I'll be breaking down for you is roles versus a category. A role is usually dependent on the operator ability, such as Valkyrie, who has cameras, so she fits into the intel role. A category is usually how the operator is played after their ability has been used. An example again, Valkyrie after deploying her cameras can either go into the objective to anchor, or she can go out and roam and use her cameras to try to pick off enemies and get free kills. Now firstly, we'll be going over roles. There are 6 total Defender roles to go over, So the first thing we're going to be going over is roles. There are 6 total Defender roles to go over, and I'll name them off really quick and then we'll dive into each one. These include Site Denial, Intel, Breach Denial, Anti-Intel, Support, and Trappers. The first role we're going to be going over is Site Denial, which is very dependent on map and bomb locations. If there's a lot of angles in that map, you're going to probably need one. If not, then you probably won't. The reason you're going to need one for a lot of angles is because this can help watch your flank when you don't have enough teammates to watch it for you. A few examples of these operators are Aruni, Castle, Mira, and Goyo. The next role we're going to be going over is Intel, which is almost always required. If you don't have Intel as a defender, you won't know what to tell your roamers, and you can't be watching the right angles. A few examples of Intel operators are Valkyrie, Echo, Maestro, and Pulse. The third role is Breach Denial, another one that's almost always required, usually Bandit or Cade, because these help stop hard breachers from getting into objective. However, you can use Mute here as well. And which operator you choose for Breach Denial also is map dependent, because if there's a lot of hatches, you're going to want to pick Cade, but if there's a lot of walls, you're going to want to pick Bandit. The fourth role is Anti-Intel. Usually operators such as Mozzie, Mute, or Solis are really strong in this category. Not always required, but Solis is really strong in the current meta for her ability to see phones, Blitz's shield, Finka's adrenaline, and other technology. The fifth category is Trappers. There's almost always at least one Trapper, sometimes 2 per team. Operators such as this are Thorn, Lesion, Frost, Ella, and Kapkan, and they're very strong in killing time when enemies are trying to enter the building or enter objective. The last role is Support. This is basically any operator who didn't fit into any of the other roles, usually healing or grenade denial, such as Wamai, Jaeger, Doc, or Thunderbird. Now to go into categories. Roaming is usually when you're off objective most of the round, and it's usually so you can flank the enemy and kill time. A few examples of operators like this are Kavira, Pulse, Solis, and Vigil. Now the exact opposite is your anchors. These people stay on the objective most of the round, and a few examples are Doc, Rook, Echo, Mira, and Wamai. And the last category is Flex. This can be any operator, but usually it's someone who balances between roaming and anchoring either during the round or in between rounds. A few operators such as this are Smoke, Doc, Azami, and Alibi. Now while I didn't put every operator in a role or category because that would take way too long, I gave you the roles and categories so that way when you sit down with your team before a ranked game, you can divvy out roles and categories so you can always win your ranked games. So obviously you won't always be with a full team, so if you're playing solo queue, then you need to make sure to arrange this with your team in game chat or by typing. Obviously, if you're at the lower ranks, you're going to have some people who are trolls and won't care. However, as you start getting higher, more people will actually take it seriously and will fit into the categories that you want them to. And another thing is that very few people choose to be the in-game leader, so oftentimes you'll have to do that and make the callouts and be the person who makes plays happen. Now to give you guys a template to work with, I gave you guys my dream team and my 5 favorite operators that I would want to have. Number 1 is Aruni, which would be my Site Denial. Number 2 is Valk, which would be my Intel Gatherer. Next would be Lesion, which would be my Trapper for the team. After that is Bandit for my Entry Denial. And finally would be Solis for my Anti-Intel. Obviously, these could fit into all sorts of different categories and different roamers and anchors, so that would be something you'd have to discuss with your team ahead of time or during prep phase. To summarize, you guys now know the roles and the categories on defense and will be able to build your dream team and adapt to each situation depending on what the attackers do. By the way, this is my first YouTube video on this channel, so please give me some recommendations and suggestions down below. And I also stream on Twitch every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday from 8 p.m. to 12 Central Time.